Imagine being a German soldier, captured in the chaos of World War II. You've spent years hearing propaganda about American weakness, about a nation soft and unprepared for war. Then the transport ship docks, and you step onto American soil for the first time. What you see next changes everything you thought you knew about the world. This is the story of how 400,000 German prisoners of war discovered a secret their leaders had desperately tried to hide. A revelation so profound that it shattered their understanding of power, progress, and what was truly possible for ordinary people. Welcome to the most unexpected consequence of World War II, the day German POWs encountered American abundance and realized they'd been fighting for the wrong side. Between 1943 and 1946, nearly 400,000 German prisoners of war arrived at camps across the United States. They came expecting harsh conditions, military discipline, perhaps even cruelty. After all, this was how POW camps worked back home. But from the moment they arrived, nothing made sense. The food came first. Not the thin gruel or black bread they knew from rationed Germany. We're talking white bread, fresh meat, vegetables, coffee, so much food that many prisoners initially refused to eat, convinced it was a trick, a way to make them compliant before the real deprivation began. One prisoner later recalled, "I thought they were fattening us up for something terrible, but the food kept coming. 3 full meals a day, every single day." Then came the work assignments. German POWs were put to work on American farms, in canneries, in lumber camps. They picked cotton in Texas, harvested wheat in Kansas, cut timber in the Pacific Northwest. And here's where the revelation truly began. These weren't just jobs. They were windows into an industrial machine unlike anything that existed in Europe. You're a German farm worker. Maybe you worked your family's land back in Bavaria. You know, farming means back-breaking labor from sunrise to sunset. Then you're assigned to a farm in Iowa? The farmer pulls up in a John Deere tractor that costs more than your entire village made in a year. It has a radio. He's listening to baseball while plowing a field that would take your whole family a week to work. He does it in an afternoon. The combines, the mechanical harvesters, the irrigation systems, German prisoners watched American farmers achieve in hours what took days or weeks back home. And these weren't wealthy aristocrats. These were regular people. Middle-class Americans with machinery that seemed impossibly advanced. One POW wrote in his secret diary, "Even the farmers here live like our factory owners." But it wasn't just the farms. Prisoners working in canneries saw production lines that moved at speeds they couldn't comprehend. Automatic filling machines, mechanical sealers, conveyor systems that never stopped. In lumber camps, they witnessed gas-powered saws and trucks that made traditional methods look medieval. The cognitive dissonance was overwhelming. Back home, German propaganda had spent years painting America as weak, decadent, materialistic in the worst way. A nation of soft urbanites who couldn't match German industrial might or military discipline. Standing in these fields and factories, that narrative crumbled like ash. But here's what really broke the spell. It wasn't just what Americans had, it was who had it. In Nazi Germany, you knew your place. The hierarchy was rigid, embedded in every aspect of society. Workers were workers, owners were owners. The distance between them was vast and permanent. Then German POWs met American farmers who owned their land, factory workers who owned cars, actual automobiles, not just the officers or wealthy elites, but regular workers. They met teenagers who thought nothing of having their own radio, their own record player. One prisoner from Hamburg, a city that had been bombed into rubble, was assigned to work for a family in rural Mississippi, not exactly America's wealthiest region. The family had electricity, running water, a telephone, and a car. The teenage son had a bicycle just for fun, not for transportation. The daughter was saving money from a part-time job to buy her own camera. This wasn't Berlin or Munich they were comparing to. This was rural Mississippi, and it was still beyond what most German workers could dream of. The prisoners began to understand something their propaganda had hidden from them. American abundance wasn't a thin veneer of luxury for the elite. It was deep, it was structural, it was for everyone. The assembly line worker in Detroit had a life that would make a German skilled craftsman envious. The secretary in Chicago lived better than a German small business owner. Now, imagine what this does to your mind. You've been taught that you're part of a master race, destined to rule Europe. You've been told that Germany's strength, discipline, and superior culture would overcome American weakness. Then you see that the weak Americans have created a society so productive, so wealthy, that their working class lives better than your middle class. Their abundance isn't accidental or temporary. It's systemic. The American guards weren't particularly brutal or kind. They were just bored. They treated guard duty like a regular job because for them, it was. Meanwhile, the German prisoners, these supposedly superior soldiers, were completely outclassed by a nation that had mobilized for war while simultaneously maintaining a standard of living that Germany couldn't achieve in peacetime. Some prisoners became deeply depressed, others angry, many simply confused. The cognitive dissonance was profound. There were secret meetings in the camps where hardcore Nazi prisoners would threaten those who spoke openly about what they were seeing. They called them traitors, weak-minded, corrupted by American propaganda. But how do you call something propaganda when you can touch it, taste it, see it with your own eyes every single day? Letters home were censored, but prisoners found ways to hint at what they were discovering. The camps are nothing like we expected. Americans have different methods than we understood. When this is over, we must learn from what we've seen. When the war ended and prisoners began returning to Germany, they came home to devastation. Cities reduced to rubble. The economy shattered. Food scarce. The contrast couldn't have been more stark. These men had spent months or years living better as prisoners in America than they ever had as free men in Germany. They'd seen a future that their ideology had dismissed as impossible or decadent. Many became the most vocal opponents of any Nazi revival. They'd seen behind the curtain. The promised 1,000-year Reich had lasted 12 years and left Germany in ruins. Meanwhile, the weak, mongrel nation across the ocean had built something that actually worked, not just for war, but for peace. Not just for the elite, but for everyone. Some returning POWs became politicians in the new democratic Germany. Others became businessmen, educators, farmers who specifically tried to import American techniques. They'd received an education that no university could provide. They'd seen what was possible when you built a system around productivity and broadly shared prosperity rather than ideology and hierarchy. The story of German POWs in America is usually told as a footnote to World War II, a logistical challenge, a diplomatic concern, but it was something much more profound. It was a revelation about what industrial civilization could actually achieve when organized around different values. These prisoners didn't just see American abundance, they saw an alternative to the zero-sum thinking that had driven Europe into 2 world wars in 30 years. They saw that prosperity didn't require conquest, that strength didn't require subjugation, that a society could be simultaneously wealthy and free. 400,000 men came to America as prisoners of war. Many left as converts to a different vision of what the 20th century could be. And perhaps that conversion, that quiet, profound shift in understanding, did more to ensure lasting peace in Europe than any treaty ever could. Because once you've seen what's possible, you can never quite unsee it.